Hi, this is Carrie. Madeline had her surgery, there she is, on Monday, and it went well. We were in ICU for 2 days, and they moved us out of ICU for a day, and then unfortunately we had to come back to ICU yesterday because her heart rate was low.
We're here with Madeline Carter.
Yes.
Eating a chocolate croissant.
It's still day 5. I'm at Telus Children's Hospital, UCLA.
So this is day 8. I want to go home. It's Tuesday, May 1st, and we're leaving the hospital. So today, boys, is the first vlog of many. Welcome to Madeline Rose Carter's surgery vlogs. I'm Madeline Carter, and I was diagnosed with Chiari when I was 8 years old. I moved to Las Vegas from Virginia when I was about 6. And as soon as we moved to Vegas, I started to get a lot of headaches, and my family was kind of concerned because it was a reoccurring thing.
So a Chiari malformation is a congenital problem. That means that you are born with this problem, and it results as the back portion of the brain, mainly the cerebellum, being too large for the skull to contain it. So it pushes in and slips into the top of the spinal canal.
Finally, one day we went to the doctor. They decided to take an MRI of my brain, and after looking at the MRI, they found that I had a slight malformation in my brainstem and my cerebellum.
The most common way a patient is diagnosed with a Chiari malformation is that they have really bad headaches that originate in the back of the head that tend to get worse with activity, or even sneezing or laughing or having a bowel movement. Anything that increases the pressure in the head can make the symptoms worse. And usually this can go on for some time before a doctor orders a CT scan or MRI that finds this abnormality.
It wasn't too bad, the Chiari, because my cerebellum was only pushing out, I think it was like 2 or 3 millimeters, and they don't normally operate unless it's at like 5 or 6, so all they could do was really monitor it.
So Chiaris can present differently depending on the age of the child or the adult. The most common symptom of Chiari malformation is that of headaches. It's typically a very particular type of headaches where it's at the back of the head and either shoots up or shoots down, and worse with exertion. Other problems such as balance, articulation of words during speech, swallowing problems, breathing problems, weakness or numbness or tingling in the arms and legs can also occur.
When I was about in 5th grade, so I was like 10 or 11, I got my yearly MRI, and I had actually grown out of my Chiari.
So I'm Nadia, and I'm a sophomore, and I was Madeline's old neighbor, and yeah. I was first diagnosed May of 2017. So when I was in 7th grade, that was like pretty much the first the first time that we noticed something was wrong. I would just get really tired, and I was starting to miss school a little bit more, and I would just get these really bad bone aches, and I would get super fatigued. It wasn't till the spring of 8th grade that I got diagnosed with Chiari, so that was like 2 years almost, because it was from the beginning of 7th grade to the end of 8th grade that we lost, that I could have been getting surgery then or treatment then. I have EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. That's like when your heart beats too fast and your blood pulls, so that was what caused me to be really dizzy. And my blood pressure got really low. And then I have cranial cervical instability, which is like your vertebrae in your neck dislocate and jab into your brainstem.
Other conditions that can be commonly seen with Chiari's are a connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which essentially means a very stretchy joints and skin. Another condition is POTS, which is a change in the hemodynamics of the body as a patient stands up.
It was honestly kind of a relief once I got diagnosed, because it just made everything have a name for everything, because before there was just so many open-ended questions with no answers, so it gave us a way to move forward.
So the most important thing about a Chiari malformation is to first realize that it's a lot more common than we think. So there's a lot of patients, actually, a lot of people that have Chiari malformations that we may pick up incidentally on a scan. They may just hit their head, or get a concussion, or have migraines, and for those reasons may get an MRI that may show a Chiari malformation. And just because it's there doesn't mean it needs to be treated. We only recommend treatment in the scenario where it's actually causing symptoms, so some of the symptoms that I described previously. And in those cases, really, the only treatment for Chiari is surgery, and surgery is really aimed to remove the pressure off the back portion of the brain.
When high school started, I started to get some weird symptoms, like my hands and feet would go numb, I was having trouble swallowing, trouble walking straight. I started to get headaches again, so it wasn't until my junior year though that we actually got it checked. So in about October of 2017, I got another MRI, and the results came back and my Chiari was back, but not only was it was back 5 times worse than the first initial scan I had when I was 7 or 8. Instead of 3 millimeters, my cerebellum was pushing out 15 millimeters.
The only treatment for Chiari is surgery. Now, if surgery is undertaken, quite often you can achieve a cure, as in meaning that the patient or the child doesn't require any further operations going forward, and typically has no more restrictions in terms of their physical activity.
They immediately sent me to a neurosurgeon. I was in California at the time, so I ended up seeing a neurosurgeon at UCLA, and we discussed what our options were, and we decided that surgery was indeed going to be the best option. So from there, I got a few more MRIs of my spine and my back to make sure that I didn't have any syrinx buildup, which is spinal fluid buildup, and I did. I had 1 syrinx in my upper spine, I believe. So after a ton of appointments and checkups, we scheduled the surgery. At first it was scheduled for May 25th, I think, of 2018. Yeah, 2018, and but it was about February, almost March at the time, and my symptoms were getting way worse. I had a lot of trouble concentrating, walking, my balance was really off. My headaches were constant, everyday things. I would have to stay home from school because of them sometimes. I was always dizzy and nauseous. And then my parents talked to my surgeon and were like, okay, we'll bump up the surgery. So they bumped it up to April 23rd of 2018. And so I went in for the surgery. I drove out to LA a day before my surgery, and leading up to my surgery I was like pretty excited. Honestly, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a chance of like a normal life, like without headaches or like the symptoms and stuff. And I knew that it was gonna take a while for me to recover, so I had that in the back of my mind, but I was mostly just hopeful that the surgery was gonna like work and like my symptoms were gonna be gone.
In December, I had a decompression, and I had a spinal fusion of my skull to my fourth or third vertebrae.
So the benefits of this operation are quite many. Most importantly, it gets rid of these debilitating headaches right away for most patients.
I just say, so for me, there's a lot of debate, like, should I get the surgery, should I not? And like this time last year was really that time where I was like, I don't know, like, should we do it? And then I ended up having to do it because I hit my head and it became really needed. But I would say if you're debating should you do it or should you not, I would say maybe do it because it's improved my life so much and I don't know where I would be if I didn't get it.
The other benefit is that, if you're diagnosed with a Chiari, a symptomatic Chiari, you should avoid all physical activity or sports that because a minor injury could result in a catastrophic neurological deficit if there's injury to the brainstem or the spinal cord or the cerebellum. So the other benefit of surgery is to be able to resume more normal activities of daily living.
For all of 9th grade, which was last year, I couldn't really do anything. I was in my house a lot. I couldn't do any of the sports I liked. I used to do swimming, play softball. Couldn't do those anymore. And like even hanging out with friends, I couldn't go out with them really that much. And if I did, it would have to be a big thing, or they would have to come here, and we just have to do that. I couldn't go to school, and it just affected my daily life a lot. I had to get a lot of help for stuff that I shouldn't need help for.
Certainly with the other symptoms that come with a Chiari, weakness, numbness, tingling, with those symptoms, the benefit of Chiari surgery is that you can either prevent the progression of those symptoms and in some cases actually reverse those symptoms if the surgery is done in a timely fashion.
It actually helped a lot. Like when I woke up from surgery, I was in less pain than when I went to have surgery, so it really helped my headaches.
Hey boys, we are finally actually packing and getting things ready for our departure tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. to get my brain cut open. We are 2 days away from the operation.
I vlogged the week before my surgery and then after my surgery while I was in the hospital, and I put it up on YouTube for people to watch. I just thought it was funny.
We're in the hospital. It's day 6.
So the surgery takes most of the day to do. The patient or child will come in, be put to sleep under general anesthesia, and we actually put the patient on their front, so they're lying on their belly. We make an incision at the back of the head. We remove the bottom portion of the skull and the top portion, the back portion of the top vertebra to give us access to do the surgery. And the surgery entails opening the dura, which is the covering around the brain, and suturing in a patch that will give more space and room for the brain and spinal cord contents.
The actual operation they determined was a success. The only sort of complication that happened was when they flipped me over onto my stomach to start operating, my nose started bleeding out of both of my nostrils. They had to call in the ENT to come. They sutured my nose, so when I woke up from surgery I had like two I had gauze up both my nostrils, and so I couldn't breathe out of my nose for like 3 days in the hospital, which was pretty gross. But on top of that, I was also very, very sick. My first few days in the hospital, which I don't remember at all, but I do have like videos and photos and my mom telling me stories, but I was getting really sick. I was up all night. I hadn't eaten anything in like 4 days, just constantly throwing up.
So after surgery, the most common problems are that of headaches and neck pains specifically, just because we have to pull on some of the muscles in the back. Sometimes nausea and vomiting can be quite common because the nausea and vomiting centers of the brain are right there where we're doing surgery. But generally after a day or so, most patients don't require strong pain medications, and they usually go home about 4 to 5 days after surgery.
I was in the ICU when I first got out of surgery, and then I got moved back to the regular floor for about a day, but then my heart rate dropped below 30 beats per minute, which of course they were like, okay, this is not good. So they had to move me back to the ICU, so I was there for another 2 or 3 days. My heart rate returned back to normal, and then I finally got moved back to the regular floor. I was pretty stable. I was on a lot of meds, which is another reason why I don't remember anything. But yeah, that's when I really started like taking videos of myself from the hospital, and looking back on them is funny to me, but also really weird because I don't remember anything from the hospital like at all. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's like a weird thing for me to like try to think back on that week.
The ultimate goal today is let them take me outside, because in the ICU you're technically not supposed to, but we're gonna try.
I was doing good for a few months, and then probably around August and September my headaches got really, really bad again, worse than before the surgery, and so that was kind of a big letdown for me because I thought that having the surgery was gonna like kind of cure everything, and it just didn't. And so that was kind of disappointing for me. And then around October, November, my symptoms started to come back. My eyesight got really bad. I ended up having to get glasses. My balance was weird again. My hands and feet were going numb again and having that tingling sensation. And I was just kind of like down because I was upset that I was still in so much pain even after going through like this big surgery.
An operation for Chiari is generally very successful. It's seldom that patients don't have any benefit from it.
Now I go back to LA every few weeks to get to like meet with my surgeon, and I have a doctor out there that I meet with. I just recently had another MRI back in January, I think, and everything came back clear again, which is good. So there's nothing structural wrong. It's just pain management and wondering why my symptoms are still present. I really just wanted to make this documentary to inform people about Chiari, because a lot of people don't even know what it is, and a lot of people go throughout their entire lives without even knowing that they have it, and a lot of people don't even find out that they have it until they get into like a fatal car accident or get some sort of injury to the brain and they have to get like an MRI scan or something, and that's when it pops up, and that's when Chiari becomes like a really dangerous.
Lack of awareness is not good because there's probably a lot of patients out there that don't even know that they have Chiari and they'll never get treated.
Symptoms don't show up in everyone, so sometimes, like I said before, people can go throughout their entire lives without even knowing that they have this malformation in their brain. It's just about, if you do have it, making sure that you do regulate it, and the biggest thing for most people is the pain, because you are in chronic pain all of the time, and the pain is worse than a migraine. The pain is worse than any little headache, and that pain is always constantly there.
My counselor at school has EDS, so like none of these are really that rare if you end up looking into it.
It's amazing that people with Chiari are able to function most of the time throughout their entire day with this incredible like weight on their shoulders of like just this headache that's always there, never going away.